Hello, welcome to my channel, Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and I am in week 14 of my Read What You Own Platinum Challenge, where I'm going to read 100 books that I already own before I buy another book. This challenge will eventually morph into the 500 book challenge. And what have I been reading this week? Honestly, not a whole lot. The first book doesn't actually count towards my challenge because I borrowed it from the library for my in-person book group. So I've already returned the physical book to the library, so I will stick it up as an image. And that was The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. And I have to say, this book was a piece of crud. The general premise is that there is an English woman in London. She's about 35 years old, and her life is not going quite according to her plan. One day, she gets back from work. She has been fired from her doobie job in a music store, and she gets a knock on her door, and there's a man saying, "I have found your cat in the street, and I'm sorry to say, your cat is dead." And after that, she commits suicide because her life is not what she wanted it to be. She finds herself in a kind of afterlife in this library filled with books. But they're not books that anyone has ever read. They are books of all the possible lives she could have lived if she had made different decisions. And the librarian is a woman that she used to know when she was a child. And the child says, you can pick any book in any other life and live that life. So the woman starts going through books and different lives that she could have lived. In one life, she chose to be the singer in a band that her brother wanted her to be in. And they become fabulously popular. Think something like Lady Gaga or something like that. Tons of adoring fans screaming her name and idolizing her. But that life is not satisfactory because her brother committed suicide in that life. And then there are other lives where she decided to become someone who studies glaciers. But that, again, is a life that she did not want to live. There were problems with that life. So this book, in essence, is going through all the possible lives that she could have lived. And for whatever reason, finding them unsatisfactory. The problem with this book is that it's a little too predictable. I guessed the end of the book before it was finished. I knew which life she would pick. And it was just jejune and twee. The writing in this book was really bland and pedestrian, just not exciting at all. And I know that the author is trying to point out that suicide is a bad thing for a person to do. But the way it came off just came off wrong. It's sort of ingratiating, too simplistic. And I just cannot recommend this book to anyone. The second one that I finished was Concrete by Thomas Bernhard. This is the famously curmudgeonly Austrian author who just has a gripe with the world. Everything is bad in the world. And this is the story of Rudolph. He is a musicologist. He is going to be writing the great work on the classical composer Felix Mendelssohn, but he can't write it. He's had a case of writer's block for 10 years as he's gathering his evidence and getting all his ducks in a row, because if he can just do this one little thing, he can get started. And once he gets that perfect sentence of his work on Mendelssohn, the work will just flow out of him, and it'll be the greatest work on Mendelssohn ever written. But he also has a problem with his sister. He loathes his sister. His sister is his bête noire, his bugbear, the evil person that is tormenting everything in his life and making his life an absolute misery to live. That's how much he hates his sister. And if only he can not get rid of his sister, but completely remove his sister from the sphere of influence, this book can get written. And Thomas Bernhard, if you don't know, writes all his books in one continuous paragraph. And that is deliberate because Thomas Bernhard wants the reader to focus on the work and have to work at it. That he does not give you that break, that ease of the paragraph break. You have to work at this book to understand it. And I really enjoyed this book. You can see that I put lots of notations in this. This is a book that tickled my fancy in a way that the Midnight Library doesn't. Also, this book contains a lot of references to suicide, but in a much different way than Matt Haig did. In this one, Thomas Bernhard sort of looks at suicide with reverence and respect, as that when your life is wrong, suicide is a good option. So I love this. Obviously, this is not a book for everyone. A lot of people will really, really detest Thomas Bernhard, not only for his writing style, but just his thoughts, his nastiness. He's a mean man. He's not a kind man. But at the end, there is this touch of humanity that just is kind of bizarrely tacked on to the end, but it's fitting in a way. So that is concrete. Highly recommended if you can take the Thomas Bernhard ideas, methodology, and style. At book 72, I actually listened to the audiobook version of this. This is The Secret City, The Hidden Life of Gay Washington by James Kirchick. I read this for the Booktube Prize, so I really cannot say much about this other than I read this. As I said, I did this as an audiobook. I did take out this book from the public library because I am the judge in the Booktube Prize, and it did have, like photos in it of Washington, and I just took it out to be complete so I can get a clearer picture of the entire book and not just the audiobook. The last book I read at 73 was the Tao Te Ching by, how do I say this? Lao-Tzu. And this is a very short book. It is about 83 pages long. But you can study this book for 830 hours and still not get to the bottom of this book. This is a very deep book. And it's very complex. In a way, it's written very simply, but it's still immensely deep and immensely complex. I will just read a sample of the idea, and you can study this for a long time and not understand it. Because if you claim to understand the Tao, you don't understand the Tao. The way can be spoken of, but it will not be the constant way. The name can be named, but it will not be the constant name. The nameless was the beginning of the myriad creatures. The named was the mother of the myriad creatures. Hence, consistently rid yourself of desires in order to observe its subtlety. But consistently allow yourself to have desires in order to observe what it is after. These two have the same origin, but differ in name. They are both called dark, darkness upon darkness. The gateway to all is subtle. What does that mean? I don't know. Got to think about it for a while. This is not the first time that I've read this book, and it may not be the last time I've read this book. Maybe sometime in the future, I can say that I understand the Tao. But today, I'm still a student walking the way and learning. Thank you for watching and keep on reading.